listen-only mode. We'll definitely have time for questions and discussion throughout the presentation and towards the end. We're going to ask that if you have questions or comments for our presenters to discuss, if you'll share them through either the chat box or the questions panel on the GoToWebinar system. If you have any technical issues, you can email me directly at clee@ghhi.org. I'd be happy to help out. So we are going to get going here in just a minute. I see some more people are signing on to today's webinar as we chat. Just want to let you know that we will, after the presentation is over, be able to share our slides as a PDF, which will go out by email after the presentation. We are also recording today's session and we'll make it available through an MP4 file to the attendees. So if you have any questions, again, you can reach me at clee@ghhi.org, and we will begin today's session. So let's make sure I can embed the slides. Great. So here's an outline of what we are going to cover today. We want to do a little bit of a review of the non-energy benefits of energy efficiency work and highlight how non-energy impacts are evaluated and considered by the multifamily affordable housing sector. So we're going to talk through some of the evaluation practices of energy efficiency programs and some policy recommendations that we're highlighting for health and energy and housing sectors, and how those different sectors can work together on these different programs. We've got two great examples of how those policy recommendations are working in practice. So we're going to have our speakers from MCE, a multifamily housing program in Marin County, California, as well as information about the Connecticut Green Bank multifamily programs. And then we'll wrap with some questions and discussions at the end of the session. So earlier this year, the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative released a paper, Achieving Health and Social Equity Through Housing, Understanding the Impact of Non-Energy Benefits in the United States. And we're really, through this webinar, working to contextualize some of the information that we presented in that paper. So I'm going to share a few highlights from that research to frame today's discussion. To begin with, want to make sure that we provide a definition of what non-energy benefits are. So you know where we're coming from with this information and how we are applying the term non-energy benefits or NEBS. If that is the wider socioeconomic outcomes that can arise from energy efficiency improvements aside from energy savings and reduction of energy use. There are some synonyms for non-energy benefits that we want to just make sure that people know we're using those interchangeably in a lot of cases, but you know, that's what we tend to use the term NEBS or non-energy benefits over the course of this presentation. And we recognize that that there is a potential impact of energy efficiency improvements that we can recognize in both energy savings and energy cost reductions through housing. The potential benefit of energy efficiency in housing is a potential to save $41 billion annually. And that is because of the current total energy use that is attributable to household energy use and consumption in the United States. And because of that, you know, we see that using weatherization as a framework for understanding non-energy benefits, that there are not only those direct savings that can be realized through weatherization and energy efficiency retrofitting of housing, but also additional benefits that are attributed to those improvements in housing, especially for low-income tenants and tenants that are experiencing cost burdens because of their living conditions. So these are just some of the ways in which that can be captured, with improvements to housing, there are direct benefits through energy efficiency savings, as well as health and safety benefits, and other impacts that we will discuss here in the next slide. So not only for the occupants themselves, in terms of improved financial stability and improvements to health, but that there are other benefits to building owners, utility sector partners, and what we can categorize as societal benefits, including economic and environmental results from this work. So in this presentation, we also, or I think especially want to highlight that there are benefits to the energy sector. We want to present information that will hopefully support the work that you're doing through your organizations to advance partnerships with energy sector organizations, be that utility providers, public service commission offices, and weatherization assistance programs. Those that are working in the energy sector themselves, those partners themselves, and again, foster relationships among sectors to advance efficiency of multifamily buildings. So this is just some information again from our paper about those energy sector benefits, and especially highlighting the evidence base for what low-income investments can provide in terms of stabilization of the energy sector from a market standpoint, and other benefits. So something else we found in the course of our research was that evaluation practices for non-energy benefits vary pretty widely among states. Every state has different standards for energy reduction targets, and also how they measure the cost benefit of energy efficiency programs. So this is just a map to share some of that information with you in case you're unsure of what your particular state is doing in terms of setting standards, or from a policy standpoint supporting multifamily affordable housing retrofit work. This is information from the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy about those different standards. We just want to make sure that the audience is aware that those kind of state-by-state breakdowns are available, and that currently about half of our states have those energy reduction targets, and many of them are being evaluated in a variety of ways. And so this is just a breakdown of the different types of cost-benefit tests that are applied to those programs, some of which are required for low-income specific programs, some of which are not. Some do not require a cost-benefit test. But just want to show that there are only a few states that really currently, consider an evaluation of societal or public purpose benefits within programs. So we see this as an opportunity to think about how we are measuring the effectiveness of energy efficiency programs, and find ways in which we can increase evaluation of some of those benefits that are in addition to cost-benefit savings. Okay, so the conclusion of the paper has a set of policy recommendations that range from opportunities for our federal partners to pull together programs in a more efficient way, such as bringing together the Weatherization Assistance Program, Department of Energy programs, and have those come under administrative work of the Department of Housing and Urban Development. That we would want to see targeted efficiency investments in low-income multifamily households in every state, and that we want to hopefully see an increase of inclusion of affordable housing programs in state energy efficiency plans and even workforce plans, and some of those statewide growth programming and plans that many of our partners have in place, and that there are opportunities to include NEBS evaluation in those state energy efficiency programs that we were just discussing. And in addition to some of those administrative policy ideas, we also highlight some opportunities to increase financial investments in multifamily affordable housing, and particularly in weatherization practices, so that we can advance health equity and other outcomes that can result from weatherization programs. So with that in mind, and that these are some of the recommendations of the paper, I want to introduce our speakers for today who are administering programs that put a lot of these ideas into practice. So first, we're going to hear from Grace Peralta, who is the Residential Programs Manager from MCE in Marin County, California. And then after Grace, we will hear from Kim Stevenson, Multifamily Housing Program Coordinator from Connecticut Green Bank. And with that, I will turn it over to Grace.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much to DHHF for the opportunity to share with you a little bit of the work that MCE has been doing here in California. First of all, I just wanted to give you a little overview of who MCE is, because we're a very particular type of organization that more and more is getting to be more common here, at least in California, and I know in other states in the U.S. as well. So MCE it stands for Marine Clean Energy, and as we expanded to other communities, we rebranded to MCE. It's a community choice energy or community choice aggregator, which means that we are a community-owned clean energy provider that's an alternative to the usual utility provider. And a little bit of how it works, the system is we have contracts and have different solar, hydro, and other farms. So we will procure the renewable energy, and then this will be delivered to people's homes just through the regular utility provider lines. And so customers don't really see a difference within their service, but they are receiving renewable energy. Some of MCE's core statements or core mission is to renewable energy, stable competitive rates for its customers, local economic and workforce benefits, and of course energy efficiency, which takes us to our program. A little bit of background on how MCE runs energy efficiency programs. We actually have ratepayer-funded programs. We receive funds from the California Public Utilities Commission to fund the majority of our programs, and then we also have other funding that I will talk a little bit more later. So to start, we have our multifamily energy savings program, which is delivered territory-wide to all the communities that are part of MCE service area. We service 4+ multifamily properties, and this is very important because a lot of the other programs out there focus on larger properties, and we wanted to make sure that we fill the void of those properties that are not being served by any other programs. And there are several multifamily developers and low-income housing. There's also small property owners who have just small properties of 4 or so units, and sometimes because of savings targets or just in terms of cost effectiveness, they cannot be serviced by any other program or those don't have access. So we wanted to make sure that we address multifamily issues. So a lot of the times programs are delivered, multifamily programs or just low-income programs they target the residents, which we think like from non-energy benefits, for example, standpoint, it's very important, but at the same time, sometimes it cannot be strategic. So what we decided to do at MCE was work with the property owners, since they are the decision makers, and we were able to service more units at the same time. And through our program, we decided to to solve some of those issues or mitigate some of these issues. For example, the split incentives, we make sure that the rebates that we offer can cover common areas, but also have we offer higher incentives for in-unit installations. We also will help mitigate costs through our rebates. We offer the technical assistance. Like I said, sometimes the smaller properties are not able to do this work just because they cannot afford someone objective can help them through the process, do the assessment, and help them even find contractor bids that are actually going to help them. So we make sure that we provide that support as well. And of course, the assessment is a key piece. We make sure that this is kind of the multifamily program. It's our lead program, if you will. And then to this, we leverage other opportunities that I will talk a little bit more in a bit. And what we try to do, I always talk about our energy report, which now it's turning more into a more comprehensive report besides energy. But we lay out in a very user-friendly way all of the opportunities that we found on the property. And this will include energy efficiency as well as health and safety now that we are working with GHHI, and also we laid out all of the rebates and the benefits that they can receive through our program, so we make this process easy for them. The next program we'll talk about is our low-income families and tenants pilot program. There you go. And this program actually does work with ratepayer funds, but it's a separate set of funding or pot of funds delivered by the CPUC. So this is actually the Energy Savings Assistance Fund, and it's very interesting because it allows us to do more than we're able to do through the multifamily program, and this is why. So basically, this program will offer rebates as well, but the difference is that for any qualified units, we will provide right up front $1,200 cash rebates for a series of basic energy saving measures. But then the additional component to this is that we're able to install heat pumps that can be used for heating and cooling as well as water heating. So heat pumps are these very particular, very new technology to, like I said, heating or cooling spaces as well as heating water. And these are very costly, and what we wanted to do is be able to provide low-income families the opportunity to enjoy the benefits of new technology like this that have also a higher savings, and also because for the unique component comes here because heat pumps usually are a fuel switching measure, which means that usually here in California we have gas heating systems and gas water heating systems, and so our regular funds through the multifamily program does not allow us to do fuel switching for several reasons determined by the CPUC. And so since this particular program or the funds of this program is funded with doesn't have that restriction, so we're able to do it, and we leverage these funds into the multifamily program. So it's one assessment, one relationship with the property owners, one relationship with the tenants, and we're able to provide this as a lump sum to the property owner, making the process much easier and delivering this new technology. It's a no cost, low cost measures in terms of the heat pumps, and also it's also a sort of not energy benefit, if you will, because it does eliminate the gas combustion issue in the home as well as indoor air quality. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes, there you go. And then, of course, as you know, we're working with Green and Healthy Homes Initiative to add another portion to our services. So the multifamily and the LIFT programs are available to territory-wide to everybody in MC service area, and GHHI has started focus on Marin County. So we leverage some of the partnerships that we have here, and it's really interesting because they are so far to this point, before we joined GHHI, our services were very energy efficiency focused, and we've been able to partner with other agencies within the county that can address other issues that we didn't even knew much about. So it's been really interesting to hear from our partners too, and being able to introduce that into our assessments. We actually, tomorrow we will have, JHSL will provide a training to our energy assessors to identify health and safety hazards in the home and how to track them within our systems. And so we can report back also to the CPUC on our partnerships, as well as just to keep track of how our work with the GHHI is going. And yeah, our incentives through this program are $2,250 per qualifying multifamily unit, which if we see it into perspective and we keep adding up the funds from the other programs, it gets to be a significant amount where it will relieve property owners. So sometimes there's several reasons why property owners sometimes don't get to do this work, and one is the lack of knowledge or the lack of information, but it's also the lack of funds. And we think that in leveraging all these systems and all these funds and just being able to set up all these programs together for them will make it way easier. Then I want to also talk about another opportunity that is not in our current service, in our current Marin County area, but it's really important because I think it could be replicated in other cities as well. We have Energize Richmond, which is a partnership with the City of Richmond here in California. And the story behind this is that the City of Richmond receives funds from, they have a Chevron refinery within their territory. And so they receive Chevron funds, and they put up a grant for, let me just get just put it out there for people to bid and propose several projects within the City of Richmond. And MCE applied to leverage more funds within their multifamily programs. This is one of the easiest programs that we have, because basically the properties that have to go through the multifamily program, some of the properties that we have on the pipeline right now are even going through LIFT as well. So even the opportunities to leverage funds are even more. And we offer additional cash rebates for the same work and additional work. The idea is always that property owners get to do more work than what they're already doing, or sometimes they reach to us for, a water heater broke and they need to change it, but thanks to these funds, we're able to do even more and benefit the units. And the incentives here are up to $25,000 for market rate properties and $30,000 for affordable, and it is a percentage of the total cost of the project. So we, in addition to MCE's rebate, to help with out-of-pocket costs. And we already have a partnership with the City of Richmond. We work with them in several projects, not only from our energy efficiency team or our customer programs team. And so this was a great opportunity to reach out to them. And one of the things that I'll highlight too is that sometimes cities and local governments in general have goals that are similar than ours. So I think one particular and very strategic approach is to reach out to them and see what is that they're trying to improve within their city, what are they looking for, and then kind of align our programs to that, so there's more opportunity for funding. Next, we have our income qualified solar rebates. This is a new program that we just launched, and it's also one of our multifamily offerings. And so this program serves low-income properties, and one of the requirements is to go through the LIFT program. So one of the things that we've been doing is not only leverage funds, but also participation. So it is a requirement for people to participate in the end. For example, if this is solar, is a requirement for them to participate of our energy efficiency programs. And so it's not only for more funding, but also for a holistic approach to the property. And next, I just have a couple case studies that I wanted to share with you. The first one is about Bakari Kafele. He is this property owner in the City of Richmond. This is him and his family, and they just had a baby. And this is a very interesting case because Bakari reached out to us for the Energize Richmond opportunity, and he just had, he had very, very limited funding, and he told us that thanks to this program, he was able to install more things that he even thought he would be able to. At that time he had a baby in the way, so it's not like he had a lot of funds to spare, and so he was able to install. He's one of those property owners who have a small property, and so he didn't, because of the burden of usually energy efficiency programs, and he didn't really reach out to any, and he was really skeptical of starting energy efficiency work. But he was able to install 3 condensing tankless water heaters, 2 Energy Star refrigerators, and just receive our overall direct install, which entails an LED light bulbs and some water saving measures. And one of the things Bakari appreciated the most was the personalized work we did, and also how easy it was and how fast he was able to get his rebate. We usually try to get rebates to property owners within a couple of weeks, and I think that is really key also. Sometimes, like I said before, we focus on and Bakari is a special case because he's an owner, but he's also a resident within the property. And so I think, we, like I said before, we usually focus on the residents, and we have the property owners as this negative entity that, sometimes, which it does happen in low-income housing especially, who can be harmful to the property or doesn't really have the residents' interest at best. But there are other cases when it's not like that. And I think we should especially focus on those situations and leverage the willingness of the property owner to do good for the residents. And see, there are just some numbers there that you can see. I won't go through all of them, but what Bakari was able to save and get in rebates and install deeper retrofits that he was able to at the beginning of the program. Our next case study, it's about Marin Villa. This is a property that is in construction right now, so I don't have a lot of updates and results yet, but it's a 12-unit low-income property here in Marin County in the Canal area in San Rafael, which is one of the areas that is mostly populated by immigrant population, low-income immigrant population. And this property has been working with MC for a very long time. They received a series of measures through the multifamily program. And then they were able to get some funding from different organizations, and they decided, and also Lyft launched last year, and was also another opportunity they could benefit from. And so we kind of started working again together to be able to deliver those funds to them. And it's been a really, really great opportunity because now that they participated through multifamily, they will receive Lyft funding. They're also going through GHHI, which means that we will address some health and safety measures. They also receive our solar rebate because they are installing solar, and they got different grants together, and also Grid Alternatives with this low-income solar organization that provides no-cost, low-cost solar installations for multifamily and mainly single-family homes. So this is one of those examples where a lot of programs got together and were able to help this property. This is a very unique case. We were also able to leverage some of the partnerships that we have with other even companies to donate some materials for the solar installations that they were missing. And like I say, they will receive energy efficiency measures, health and safety, and as well as solar. And we're really excited about this program, and we're looking forward to sharing more when we're done. And just to close up, I just wanted to leave with some takeaways or what we can do in the future through our programs. Capitalize our current friendships, like partnerships, like I said, contact other organizations that we're working with organization-wide, not only through our team, because sometimes we really get into our energy efficiency work and we don't see outside of that scope. And I think sometimes, for example, within the community, the local governments too, we always have environmental approach, and so at times we should look other ways. For example, we've been starting conversations with housing sector and building permits and those kinds of things, because usually people or property owners who are going to do work, they do need permits. So why don't we try to offer our programs to those avenues as well? then find common ground, like I said, being able to see what we have in common and talk to property owners. I'm a very big advocate for not just setting and designing programs from our offices, but actually getting out there or getting a group of property owners together and just ask them what can we do to make this easier for you, and hear from the actual community what they need. Focus on the greater good. I think sometimes it's a little bit difficult to, through so many regulations and so many rules, and that can be discouraging at times. But in the end, and also, our programs too, they have very high savings goals and things like that. But I think as much as we can build these case studies and we can tell the story of who are we actually serving, I think that could be also a leverage point for us before our regulatory entities. And that's another thing. I will actually jump on this one because challenge the rules. One of the things I forgot to mention, the LIFT program is actually a pilot program, which means that we're testing out different approaches and we are gathering a lot of information. So even what doesn't work, it's telling the story of why it's not working, right? We are, for example, with the heat pumps, we're also the income levels that we are required to serve through these programs are very low, which in California are not that many, but that doesn't mean that there are not low-income folks being left out there. And so what we want to do with this pilot is also challenge the rules and prove to the CPUC that there are other communities out there that need to be served that are not being served, and tell the story, build programs that actually tell a story and deliver this information and don't focus just on the numbers and on the savings. Because let's remember that these programs, people out there who have needs, have to bring food to the table every day. And so how do we make sure that these programs achieve that common goal? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. We've got a couple of questions from the audience. I'll open that up. So first, I wanted to say that I always try to recommend when we work with our GHHI sites to build out case studies, if they can get pictures of babies or dogs in with their human shots, so they're doing well. And you managed to get both in one picture. That's very nice. Congratulations there.
There you go.
So we've got a couple of questions for you. One about the LIFT program, because you highlighted there's the fuel switching issue. So the question is, how do you make sure the tenants don't have increased utility bills from the switch? For example, if previously the owner paid for heat, but now the tenants must, how are you controlling for those costs?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and that was actually one of my main concerns when we decided to do the heat pump pilot. So along with the installation, we're also doing tenant education to make sure that people understand the type of technology that they have at home, and the risk of bills going up. And so this is something that inevitably will happen. I think it is all about how we let folks know how this type of technology works. Also, we've been discussing internally at MC about our rates, our rate schedules too, to see how in the future we can because heat pumps are still very new, and even for contractors, it's a very new technology to install as well. So I think that's the pilot component of this, right? To gather all this data and being able to inform the CPUC on what are the changes that need to be made. We have here in California, especially in MC service area, Napa, Marin County, there are areas that get really, really hot in the summer, and now Contra Costa. And so I think also letting people know the benefits that they have along with the risk. I think, and that's okay. I think that sometimes we we have this paternalistic view of our programs and always try to protect, but protect customers. And I understand that. I want to protect them too, but I think also to be able to deliver, and as long as they know how the technology works, I think that that is also worth it.
Yeah, so you're hoping to achieve that cost stabilization overall, it sounds like, which is a great point. So the second question was regarding information on your slide about the GHHI partnership. They mentioned $2,250 per unit. The question is, where is that funding coming from, if you've got a source attributed to it?
Yes, so I must say, so GHHI within Marin County has a very particular, it works in a very particular way. So we have several partners, but then we had an issue with the one of the energy efficiency programs that we were working with, especially for single family. And then we realized that there were also some gaps on funding. And so we were able to, it doesn't come from GHHI, I should clarify. GHHI is here in Marin through Marin Community Foundation. And so we were able to get an additional grant to close those gaps of funding, and that's where the $2,250 come from. Because a lot of times, you know, like I was saying, we are trying to solve the out-of-pocket costs for these programs, but there is still something. Our programs, you know, because of several reasons, cost effectiveness and whatnot, are especially the multifamily, which covers the majority of the measures, is not a no-cost program. There are rebates there. It doesn't, and even with LIFT, there's still funding and there's still cost to be paid by the property owner. And so we wanted to make sure that whenever in these, you know, how do we create that perfect storm where we have all of these measures to address, and whenever there's something lacking, that it's, you know, not energy efficiency related or something else that the property cannot afford, then that's what these funds will be used for.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Grace. So we are going to now open it up for Kim Stevenson.
Hi, Kathleen. Thanks so much for inviting me today to share information about the Green Bank's multifamily programs. I'll start out by a real brief overview of who the Green Bank is, and then I'll dive into our programs and some of the case studies, that show how we're working to address both energy, health and safety, and other issues in the properties that we're funding. Go ahead and go back to the previous slide. Is a Qualix agency. We finance clean energy, implementation of clean energy in the state of Connecticut. And what we try to do is we work to leverage private financing using limited public funds with the overarching goal of financing scale deployment of clean energy for maximum impact. And when I use the term clean energy, I mean both energy efficiency and renewable energy. The Green Bank was established in 2011 by the Connecticut legislature, and we've been running our multifamily programs since about 2013. So our multifamily programs, the goals of our multifamily programs is to support property owners, developers, and managers in funding energy improvements that will reduce energy costs, but also maintenance and other operating costs. And then use the cost savings from the implementation of these measures to help finance additional capital improvements in the buildings, increase property values, and also improve the housing quality for residents. And we are doing all of those things, and I have a couple of case studies to demonstrate that. So our programs include a suite of pre-development loans that fund technical assistance, construction and term financing, as well as a health and safety revolving loan fund. So we serve multifamily property owners, and you know, as Grace explained with her programs, our primary customer and our primary focus is working with the property owners or managers, because they're the key decision makers and they're the folks that make the investments in the properties. So our multifamily programs serve properties with 5 units and above. We work with owners that have subsidized rent-restricted affordable housing, as well as what we call naturally occurring affordable, so properties that serve low and moderate income residents but may not be subsidized. Our programs primarily work such that loan amounts for implementation of measures are determined based upon the projected energy savings of implementing a measure, and the cost savings from higher efficiency or renewables is used to service the loan. Go ahead to the next page. So we have in Connecticut quite an old housing stock with significant capital needs. In many cases, mechanical systems are at the end of their useful life. The properties are very inefficient, and there's significant health and safety issues. I think we estimate between 30 and 40% of the residential units in the state cannot be weatherized or be subject to weatherization improvements because there are health and safety issues like mold, asbestos, leaking roofs, other leaks in the house. So they're in significant need of repair, and also these health and safety issues have a significant impact on the health of the populations that are living in them, particularly children and elderly. We've got very significant asthma rates in Connecticut, due in part to the quality of the housing stock here. So go ahead to the next page. So what we're finding through our programs, that if we can make smart energy improvements and significantly reduce energy, water, and operating costs, we're seeing that these cost savings can actually finance other capital improvements to the building. So this case study that you see here is a condominium association, 82 units, low income. This is a property that was in both financial and physical distress. Roofs were leaking, old heating systems, and they were in a very high insurance category because of all these issues. They couldn't find anyone to finance them. They came to the Green Bank, and through our programs, we were able to finance lighting improvements, boilers, insulation, and sorry about that, full roof replacement. And you can see here that the project had total cost of about $650,000. For all of these projects, we try to maximize utility incentives as much as possible. There were $34,000 of utility incentives that went in, so the total amount financed was $620,000. The estimated annual savings here were $79,000. and there was debt service on the loan of $53,000. So in this case, there was money left over after the debt service to pay for other things at the condo association. And one of the significant cost savings in this whole project was not only the energy savings, but also the insurance rates went down. So this case study is available as a video. It goes into more detail. If you have time and you want to take a look, you could go ahead and watch the video. So go ahead to the next slide. Oh, next slide.
Sorry about that, Kim. It's taking a second to load. There it goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
No worries. So just one caveat that I'd like to explain is that at this point in time, with our financing that we're doing at the Green Bank, we're primarily focused on property where there's at least one owner-paid utility, and usually that's the heating system. And this is because if the owner is paying the utility costs and they're able to take advantage of the savings from the capital improvements, whereas if tenants are paying the utility costs, the owner would make the investment, but the tenants would benefit from the lower utility costs, and there's a split incentive there. So it's more difficult for owners to do that if tenants pay for the utilities. We are working to try to address this problem, but we haven't quite cracked that nut yet. And our biggest paybacks in Connecticut come from properties where there's electrically heated properties that convert to gas, or an oil to gas conversion. So one of the other things that we find in this sector is that owners often don't have the knowledge or the time or the experience or the expertise to figure out what combination of measures should they look at and make and implement on their properties that will deliver the highest return on investment over the lifetime of the property. So for example, do they explore a fuel conversion? Do they install solar? They want to look at implementing upgrades or measures, energy upgrades. Where should they be focused and how? So in order to address this kind of capacity challenge, we have implemented pre-development loan programs where owners can borrow money from us to hire energy professionals to support them in doing opportunity assessments, audits, design and funding, as well as costs associated with raising funds for actual implementation dollars for the project. These are low cost, low interest, unsecured loans that range anywhere from about $10,000 up to as high as $300,000, depending upon the property. And then in terms of term financing, we have what's called our Lime loan, which is a low-income multifamily energy loan. This is really kind of our marquee product for implementation of energy improvements. And this is used hand in hand with the utility incentives. So it will fund costs that are not covered by utility incentives, One of the key attributes of the low-income multifamily energy loan is this is an unsecured loan, so it's not secured with a mortgage. And we found this to be critical for the success of the program because many multifamily properties have existing debt or restrictions that don't allow additional secured debt, even if it's subordinate debt. So we have loaned as high as $2.6 million of unsecured debt through our low-income multifamily energy loan. We have solar financing that's used on multifamily. One of the things that we offer is a power purchase agreement, and this is a program whereby multifamily owners with a green bank actually owns and finances the solar installation. We guarantee performance, and the property owner purchased the solar power from us at a guaranteed lower rate than what they would purchase it from a utility company. And this program has been particularly good for nonprofits and housing authorities that aren't able to monetize or take advantage of low-income, the solar tax credit. And then finally, we do have a catalyst funding. This is very low interest subordinate debt that we use to bring down the overall cost of capital on projects. We receive the dollars that we use to fund this through a program-related investment from the MacArthur Foundation. And we also have another fund that is strictly for health and safety measures that need to be remediated before you're able to implement energy measures. Go ahead and move on to the next slide. Okay, I'm not this next slide just talks through the pre-development costs that can be financed. I'm not going to go ahead to the next slide. These are our implementation measures that can be financed. So a couple of things to mention here is that the green bank programs, we really encourage owners to look beyond what can be incentivized by the utility efficiency programs. So looking at fuel switching, if that makes sense, looking at renewables in addition to energy efficiency measures, and also promoting performance monitoring. We require energy performance monitoring on all of the projects that we fund so that we really understand, is this project performing the way we expected it to perform? For this group here, one of the things I'd like to just share with you all is that we have worked very closely with the utility companies as we've developed and implemented these programs. We've had our greatest successes when our goals and mission are aligned with the utility incentive programs, particularly in an effort where we worked with the Department of Housing and the Housing Finance Agency and the utilities to make sure that there was coordination of all of the financing and all of the energy analysis, and that energy incentives got implemented as part of the capital stack when the state was financing any projects. Where it's been more challenging coordinating on the utility incentives has been with mid-cycle properties, and these are properties that are not at a financial event, a purchase, a sale, a major capital improvement. The Green Bank is really trying to encourage property owners to go deeper, do more, leverage the savings for other capital improvements. And what we're finding is that the utilities programs are really incented to get the dollars out quickly on the measures that they're able to incent, and that by going deeper, looking more broadly, looking at broader non-energy benefits, and taking loans to fill the gaps, to really see those impacts, it slows the process down. And it's more difficult to partner and coordinate with the utility companies when we're really pushing on that broader mission. And this is where I see this whole industry as really having to rethink how we value benefits and get alignment of the goals of all the program partners so that we can work together. And I will end there.
Thanks so much, Kim. And I think that that's a great, thought for continued discussion. And actually, it looks like this may be your last slide. The question that I had for you, because the previous slide mentioned the qualified health and safety measures and the programs that you're doing, because much of what you highlighted are the barriers that many of our partners that are participating in this call face around, phasing of renovation work and trying to address health and safety issues that might be reasons for efficiency programs to defer buildings from participating in improvements. So yeah, I know you mentioned issues with water intrusion. But if you want to talk through some of these things that may be helpful for health and safety issues that you're trying to assess and make an impact on as you're implementing programs.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, this slide right here is just showing some of the most common health and safety issues that need to be remediated before you implement energy efficiency measures, right? So knob and tube wiring, mold and leaks. If you seal and weatherize and there's mold and water leaks, you're just going to create a much more difficult indoor air quality issues. And then asbestos, of course. The issue with many of these health and safety issues is that they are quite expensive to remediate. And unlike energy and water upgrades or improvements, there isn't kind of a cash flow savings once you've, by implementing these improvements. So what we try to use is to use the savings from the energy improvements to help pay for some of these health and safety issues.
That's great, thank you. All right, so I will leave
a
minute here. Oh, go ahead.
Could I have one more second? If you could move to the next slide. I just promised. Next slide. This is my contact information. Next slide. One more slide ahead.
Okay.
I'd just like to mention that the Green Bank has established a nonprofit spin-out called Inclusive Prosperity Capital. So the Green Bank works in Connecticut. However, Inclusive Prosperity Capital is we're a not-for-profit specialty financial intermediary that is taking all the programs that we've made work in Connecticut and are making those available outside of Connecticut. So if folks have any interest in working with us who are not in Connecticut, we can help support that work through Inclusive Prosperity Capital. And that's it.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that, Kim. It looks like we haven't received any additional questions from the audience at this time, but do want to share that if you have follow-up questions or comments for our presenters, please let me know. We'll provide contact information and be able to facilitate that connection for anyone that's interested. And just want to share a couple more things as we wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I want to thank our presenters again, Grace and Kim, for sharing information about your programs. I think these are really great models for our partners to learn more about. And with that in mind, and some of the thoughts we shared today about partnerships around energy efficiency and health, next week on Friday is National Energy Efficiency Day. And the website that is available with resources for recognizing Energy Efficiency Day is energyefficiencyday.org. And they've got template information for proclamations, social media toolkit supplies, and as well as some other information, including videos on health impacts of energy efficiency. So if you're looking to connect with partners or promote energy efficiency work in what you're doing, you may be able to find some good resources out on the website that will help you facilitate some of these conversations. And that is the conclusion of the webinar today. Again, for anyone that may have joined us late, we will be sharing slides via email. So you'll expect to see an email with the PDF of the slides, and that will include information so you can watch the videos that our presenters referenced. We will also share the recording of this webinar session and communicate with you about how you can access that here before too long. And again, if anyone has any questions or needs any additional resources that we mentioned today, please give me a call or email me. This is Catherine Lee at clee@ghhi.org, or you can follow or contact us through our website or any of our social media accounts. And thanks again for joining us. And I want to thank our partners, especially who participated today from Energy Efficiency for All, including representatives from the National Housing Trust, Natural Resources Defense Council, Elevate Energy, as well as the Energy Foundation and the JPB Foundation. Thanks for supporting us, and we'll be in touch soon. Thanks.